Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network.
Hello, this is Michael Feely, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK radio network, the UK's biggest paranormal network, and this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young.
Hello, and welcome to another Paranormal Dimensions. Thank you for that, Michael. Hope everyone's keeping safe out there in these troubled times. Today's guest is Jill Hughes, the author of a book called Spirit of Prophecy. It was an Amazon #1 bestseller. It's a metaphysical novel of international crime. Yeah, what I'd like to do is actually read a review of it from somebody. I really enjoyed this amazing story. It's fast-paced and a total page-turner, and I found it incredibly emotionally engaging. The central character, Rosetta, is strong but slightly flawed, as you'd expect with a detective at the sharp end. Meanwhile, her ex-husband used her special abilities against her to get custody of the kids in their acrimonious divorce battle. In Spirit of Prophecy, you discover a brilliant blend of crime, investigation and paranormal, mainly based on past life and karma, while psychic CID unravel the current crime and the intriguing backstory. The themes are really engaging, from supernormal to aliens and AI, which is artificial intelligence, of course. The book is set a few years in the future, and some of the concepts are really thought-provoking. The author has really done her homework. I especially love the scenes in Ireland, where the pace slows a little as the romance between Juliet and Tommy develops. This is a novel with two strong, totally convincing female characters, but I think I'm secretly in love with Tommy, the Irish horse dealer and traveller. Okay, well, I love the ending. In fact, I totally love this original, highly memorable novel. Fingers crossed someone snaps up the film rights, as I'd love to see who gets cast as Tommy, the yummy hero. As for the villain, Boo Hiss, I'm looking forward and can't wait for J.J. Hughes' next adventure. I really hope there'll be a series I can really relate to the characters. Come back soon. P.S. This book is funny too, and I love the sassy, down-to-earth humour. A real satisfying roller coaster ride. So I think, following on from that, I think the best thing to do is introduce Jill Hughes to you. She's waiting in the wings. Hello, Jill. Welcome to the show.
Hi, David.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you on. Thank you. I discovered Jill basically because I was following the Brexit party during Brexit, and obviously we're still waiting to actually leave the EU, and whether we ever will, I don't know. But Jill was actually part of the Brexit party, and I don't know. Perhaps Jill could tell us a bit more about that and how she got involved in it.
Totally. Yeah, I was, well, obviously the background to Brexit being basically it's like a shorthand for us leaving the European Union, which we'd kind of joined initially for the benefits of a single market, between us and another 27 countries. But then the whole thing just kind of escalated, so they had increasing control and power over practically every aspect of our lives.
Now, I remember when we actually just joined the common market, wasn't it? Back in
that's right.
What year was that? Was that the early 70s sometime?
Yeah, yes, it was.
About 73, something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Edward Heath and all that.
Edward Heath, yeah, thank you, Edward. So it just morphed into something far greater, and it was even getting to the point where, I mean, most of the countries have got a common currency. So that would be a bit like America giving up the US dollar and joining, I don't know what other currency tops the dollar. None at the moment. But, so basically, luckily, we didn't actually go into the euro, the common currency, because that at least does give you control over your own, domestic policies. But increasingly, they took over our rules, regulations, our laws, our immigration policy, our borders. They were even muttering about a federal army. And I think it just got to the point where the balance tipped too far. And it was really a decision about an individual country's sovereignty and its own laws and its own decision making and democracy really versus a federal government that we hadn't elected that were located in Belgium. So I'm very kind of pro sovereignty at all levels. And I was asked to stand for the Brexit Party. I'd previously been Conservative president of the local Conservative association. So I was very keen that we got Brexit through because we'd had a referendum in 2016. It was very mixed. Parts of the country, Scotland and Northern Ireland voted to remain in the EU, whereas England and Wales voted out. So it was a very close run thing. And basically it just got quagmired for 3 years. So anyway, luckily on the 12th of December 2019, we elected a government under Boris Johnson that had a majority and can execute leave decisions. So it will happen and we can put that hopefully behind us.
I tell you what I thought, Jill. I always thought that maybe the vote to leave was actually bigger than they admitted to. I kind of had that suspicion, but I don't know how you feel about that. Because everybody I know and everything I saw on Facebook and everything like that, they all wanted to leave. And I saw very few people that wanted to stay in the EU. So,
I mean, I guess, darling, that is everything to do with the company that you keep, and that's really interesting because, of course, that's the same as what newspaper do you read? I mean, I don't read The Guardian, but the people that generally, I know we're generalizing, read The Guardian, voted to stay. So I think probably everybody that we associated with, although I have some, exceptions to this rule, and they were arguing very vehemently with me. We tend to kind of keep the same company where the beliefs are consistent, don't we? So I don't know. I mean, I remember looking at Nigel Farage's face. He was shocked when the Leave vote won. He was really shocked. Yeah. I wasn't, you see. But then I'm somewhat psychic, so I was 100% confident that we would win. It never even occurred to me that we wouldn't.
No.
But
well, I've got to say, that night when the vote was going through, I mean, I know this is a paranormal show. Wait, you just be patient, everyone out there, while we have this little rant. But, that night when the vote was going through, I actually went to bed thinking, we're staying in because we were on the BBC and they were saying, the vote's going that we're going to stay.
Yes, they
were. By the morning, my wife came running in saying, we're out. And I said, what? She and I couldn't understand that transition. Like it was, the vote seemed so big that we were staying when I went to bed. And when I got up in the morning, it was, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was absolutely an incredible
That's why I kind of suspect that, the vote was so big that they couldn't actually swing it. They couldn't actually fake it. But there you go.
Yeah.
Who knows? Anyway, I suppose we ought to go on. I mean, unless you've got anything more to say on Brexit. I mean, we're still waiting to get out, and I presume we will get out eventually.
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely confident we will.
And obviously without any further controls from the EU. I mean, it's our fishing waters and things we want back and everything, isn't it? All that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. It'll be tricky like any divorce. You know what? There's going to be wrangling. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It can get quite nasty, especially when it comes down to money. But there's a whole new world out there and we just got to go forward and be really, really confident. I'm so positive and optimistic about our future, although that sounds a bit bizarre in the current coronavirus times. But
well, going into that, I mean, like you say, we're all on kind of a lockdown at the moment. I call it a voluntary lockdown because although we've been told we've got to stay at home, there's no law against there's no law against going out. I think it's all like how you want to take it, really, isn't it? But I know you should be in America at the moment, shouldn't you? In New York, on your book tour and everything.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I was supposed to be in New York. In fact, I should have flown out this morning. And yeah, I was then on a kind of a training course, and then I was going to pitch to 100 media producers, that's TV, radio, magazines. But of course that actually they were really, really good. They took the initiative very early on to postpone, even before we got into it, it got more serious. And that's rescheduled for October. So.
Oh, that's good. So at least it's still going to happen. That's
yeah, no, it is. But I absolutely adore New York. I lived in New York. I worked in New York. I worked in number 7 World Trade Center, which came down in the aftermath. I couldn't actually go back for about 5 years. But when I did go back, I just want to say to all the Americans that are tuning in, you've done an amazing job with Ground Zero. It is absolutely incredible.
It is unbelievable what they've done, isn't it? To clear that just seems such a massive job to clear that up.
Absolutely. You know what? They just have done an awesome job. And I just want to say my heart totally, I've got my I Love New York coffee cup with my cup of coffee, and my heart goes out there because they're really taking, the flak. But then, as is London, the big cities, it's hitting hard. But,
yeah, I mean, the financial burden of that alone must have been massive. I actually thought they recovered a lot, or the world recovered a lot quicker than I imagined, actually, after 9/11. I actually thought it was going to be, almost on a World War III footing, but, it did too, I suppose, in some aspects, but, there you go. I mean, I love New York as well. I mean, I've been there a few times.
Yeah. But, can I just say, this occurred to me, so I won't dwell on too long about coronavirus, so I'm sure we're all hearing plenty about it, but it occurred to me, actually, in a way, it's like we're in a process of grieving, because actually, well, of course, people losing people, and those numbers that they're clocking up are actually lives, people's loved ones. But I just wanted to point out, because this kind of helped me, it is like a grieving process, because we've lost a way of life. So we're kind of going through, well, I don't know about you, David, but we're going through the stages of grief. It starts off with denial. I mean, this can't be happening. I don't believe it. I remember thinking, hang on a minute. This is like a Netflix series. I'm watching it, but now I'm in it. And then I moved on to anger. I was getting really angry, if the policemen were sending out here in the UK drones to watch people walking their dogs, all that. I got really angry about the curtailment of our freedom. And then I suppose we move through this process, like bargaining. Okay, if you do this, keep my loved ones safe, and I'll do that. It's like we do this. And then I think I'm possibly in this stage where I'm feeling a little bit depressed.
Oh, I think we've all got to that point, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I think there's going to be a backlash against the, I don't know if it's going to be the police or the government or what eventually, because I think a lot of it is very heavy-handed, and a lot of it is not about keeping people safe from a virus. It's about control. I mean, when someone's walking out in the middle of the countryside, who are they near? Who are they endangering?
Precisely. I mean, I've got, I used to have 3 amazing Portuguese pointers. They're a fabulous breed, but they're very hyper energetic, and for various reasons I drive to let mine off in a safe place, because they're they run, and someone actually stuck a sticker, stay at home, you miserable, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, oh gosh, come on guys, let's focus on positive. Let's not be narky and snitchy but hey, there you go. Yeah, spying on the dog walkers.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that this is the thing, we've always been used to being free, haven't we? And this sort of being told you've got to stay indoors, it's so alien to us, it's ridiculous.
It is, exactly, because we're, as humans, as social animals, number one thing, we socialise. We're highly, I'm not saying that chimpanzees and other animals are not, but we are highly social beings. So, yeah, I'm going through that. Kind of, I wake up and my mood's a bit low because I'm normally a really high vibe kind of person. I'm like bouncy. But
I think another unfortunate thing, an aspect of it, I keep seeing a lot of videos and things on YouTube and on Facebook and everything. All of this is unnecessary, and actually you see evidence of it being unnecessary. Like they're saying, like this COVID virus, COVID-19, they can't actually test it properly, or the way they did test it was inaccurate anyway in the first place.
Yeah, that's true. I've been having that discussion with my MP, and he said, the problem is that certainly the antibody tests are not accurate. I mean, we actually had a situation here where it was my niece's wedding in Orlando, which was awesome. And so the whole family headed out on the 22nd of February, just before it really kicked off. But I did the whole kind of the max exposure, the flight, the long flight, tried to get a face mask. And I'm not like that. I'm kind of like, well, if it's your karma, Jill, to go now, then that's your karma. I'm not, in resistance to it, because I'm very much into karma and reincarnation. But I thought, well, I'll try and get a face mask.
We will get into all that eventually.
Yeah. No. I tried to get the face masks. No, they're sold out online. I'm like, oh, okay. So I did the, long haul flight to Orlando. Then we did 2 days at Universal Studios. It was heaving. Then Star Wars. Yes. Yeah. At Disneyland. Then the wedding, and then got on a cruise, darling. Coronavirus cruising.
Yeah. And talk about the face mask part of it. They do say that wearing a face mask actually protects others. It doesn't protect you yourself, because the virus can actually go through the face mask.
Yeah.
And also your eyes are free as well. So
True, very true. But I think it is more common in Asia. But you see, then you hear stories. My sister, we were over for her daughter's wedding. She said her friends had been in Beijing in June and they got the cough. And they were over there. That was June. So I think it's been going on longer than any of them are actually owning up to. But I
actually agree with you, because we had a really, really bad cold before Christmas, and it knocked me out for a couple of days, and knocked my wife out for a couple of days as well. And then after Christmas, it came back again, and we got another dose of it.
Yes, so, that's exactly me too. But
and I understand that we weren't the only ones either. I mean, as I say, you've just said it, and I've heard it was very widespread also.
Yeah, I've just got this theory, but as I say, my sister's friend was over there in Beijing. They actually she was really ill. All of the symptoms. This was June 2019. They got someone to translate to the Chinese pharmacist, over WhatsApp or FaceTime, and they gave them she doesn't even know what they gave them, but they were wearing face masks, and they explained it's considered polite so that you don't cough on other people. So it is more culturally the norm in Asia versus, say, here in the West. But yeah, I mean, when I was campaigning, because my constituency when I was in the Brexit Party was battling Spen, which tragically was where Joe Cox, the Labour politician, was murdered. So, but when I was up there, I got a most terrible, it was called Northern Flu, and I've never been really so ill. I was really bad, and exactly the same as you, it kept coming back. But hey, I guess we just got to get through this and after the event, we'll find out more, obviously. But I just kind of wanted to share that how I'm taking it, like it is a grieving process. Because when I realised that, it actually made me feel a bit better. It felt, oh, okay, that's why, because this is how it is. So the final stage we'll move into is acceptance. Yeah. So.
Well, I feel that I'm in quite a lucky position because I live out in the country, and I believe you do too. We are probably a few of the lucky few that don't really need to. There's not a lot of change for us, but people living in blocks of flats. We've got a little, maybe a little pokey flat. They can't get out. They've been told they can't leave their home. People are living in fear. Old people are living in fear. They think it's in the air, that they're breathing it in all the time. And I blame the media, because a lot of it coming from the media is scare tactics.
You know? Absolutely, couldn't agree with you more. And also, but equally, it's the kind of bureaucratic nonsense. They locked a park down. They locked the park. I mean, that's just terrible, guys.
Absolutely.
Come on. Oh, yeah. I mean, I just laugh. I always see the funny side of it wherever possible, but that really upset me, because that's just crackers, isn't it? If you're stuck in a flat, let's just say mum and dad, all right, and then the kids, and you've got to try and homeschool the kids. Yeah. That's hugely stressful, and cook all the meals and all the everything else. You can't
with
even
no money coming in.
Come off it. I mean, your heart bleeds, literally. But I mean, there are some positives that have come out of this, and that one of the awesome things is they've actually put the homeless into hotels. Thank you. Yeah. Right.
So why didn't they do that before?
Absolutely. Right. And you know, you've just got to say there are always people that are far worse. What about all those refugees holed up in Turkey and Greece? And I want some of our foreign aid budget to be deflected off there. You know, let's call it back from China. Sorry. Rich countries. Yeah.
I'm the same. I don't know why we give it to them in the first place. I mean, they've all got their own space program. Why do we give them money? You know.
I tried this one on my MP because, of course, one of Nigel Farage's things would have been he would have halved the national aid budget and redeployed it to our care system, for example, our infrastructure. And, of course, I'm charitable. I give money where we can afford to. But equally, I think sometimes it's, and this is literally an example, you've got to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help your children or your loved ones.
That's right, yeah. Or put your parachute on for a bit before you... Anyway, I guess we better get into your book.
Indeed, sorry we have...
I think it's interesting. I think it's important to cover things like this. Anyway, your book, Spirit of Prophecy, was actually a bestseller, an Amazon #1 bestseller in 2018, I think it was. Is that correct?
Yep. It was, yeah.
It's a metaphysical crime mystery. I don't know if you want to tell us how you came to write it, and it took a long time to write. Actually, it was 4 years in the making, but it is effectively a crime mystery. But the main character, Juliet. There are two main characters. Rosetta is a psychic detective, and she works for an underground, deeply secret organization called I can't even remember. Whoops. Anyway, they actually recruit psychics, and they're looking at predicting crime in order to prevent crime. And the unit also manage and monitor AI, so it's set in the future. And Rosetta herself, being psychic, had gone through a really bad divorce. Her husband is a diplomat, a UK diplomat to Russia, very powerful. So he used the fact that she's psychic and also a trad family witch against her in the divorce courts, and he got custody of the children.
So she's lost her children, her personal background because of her belief system. She's quite persecuted. But when she's recruited to EPIS, that's it, she fits in because they're all highly psychic and different and have supernormal powers, supernatural powers, and they're valued equally. You know, they're doing really important work. But she gets seconded to a local country rural constabulary in Yorix, which is in the southeast of England. And there the novel opens with a prophetic dream where Rosetta knows that a terrible, terrible accident is going to happen to horse riders out on the country lanes in December, and she's trying to prevent the accident. And that's the kind of opening of the story, but it basically also looks at the undercurrents of the karmic lives of all the characters in the past, and it's linked to an original horrific crime between the Mexicans and the Native American Apache Indians in New Mexico. So yeah, the other main character is called Juliet. She's an American Olympic eventing gold medal winner. So it's a very complex plotted crime mystery, but everyone equally says that the characters are just awesome. They love the characters and there's a love story. So sometimes with thrillers, they're kind of cardboard cutouts, you know, and the plot is all. I mean, I love plotting, but equally you have to care about the characters. So.
Yeah. There's a character called Tommy in it, I believe. It's
Tommy.
A bit of a heartthrob, I understand.
He is totally dishy. I mean, I love, if you think about it, I mean, if you ask me what are my favourite novels, I would say Gone with the Wind. So you've got Rhett Butler. You've got Pride and Prejudice. If you're in the UK, you know, you've got Darcy. We had Colin Firth play Darcy in the wet shirt as he comes up the lake. And I'm quite into Gothic literature. So Tommy has got to be one of those really, you know, amazing heroes that you remember.
Yeah.
And
well, I don't know if have we mentioned this already. We did actually, I'm going to tell our audience out there now, Jill and I actually did record this show. Well, we thought we'd recorded it some weeks back. But something went wrong and it didn't record. So this is why we're having to do it again. But, what's actually happened was, Jill thinks you think it may well have been something to do with you, didn't you? Because you've got some of, you know, you seem to think that electrical things react to you.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I've got to say, it was the first time it's happened that it didn't record as well. So something funny went on.
It doesn't surprise me, and I basically, you know, I've been on a very long spiritual mission and of, you know, raising my energy, raising my vibration. So actually I was shocked, to be honest, when I got diverted into politics. I was kind of like, you serious? You want me to go into the nest of the vipers? Are you for real? And the message came back, yes. So I'm like, okay, all right, you know, off I went. But then just as I embarked on that journey, a number of really amazing coincidences, and I believe it is all coincidences and synchronicities and the signs. You've just got to be awake enough to read them. So I was campaigning up north. I came back down to my home and literally my whole electrics blew. I had the emergency electric people out, the team, for 4 days, digging up all the cables underneath my house. I went back to my constituency. I was staying with my mum. I blew all her electrics too. She wasn't very happy. And it has just been rolling out like that. really, really bizarrely, but I can't explain it. So if any of your listeners have had similar experience,
if you let anything blow, but if anything's blowing up, it's Jill's fault, right?
Yeah, okay.
No, I thought I'd better tell it because
if anybody knows what this whole well, of course, the whole universe is electric and energy. So, but I seem to be blowing fuses. If I go onto a Zoom meeting and I touch the screen, I disconnect everybody, so I've just got to be careful.
Yeah, it's very strange, isn't it? So if you've got your speakers are blowing up, you know why. No, I thought I'd better mention that because I wanted to mention the reason, because the program we had recorded previously, or thought had recorded previously, would be a little bit different to this, because we wasn't in lockdown then. You know, and we've kind of gone into a position where we're recording this now, obviously, but we're in a lockdown position now, so the situation is quite different. Where the reason we were recording it earlier is because Jill was going to be on a tour of America and or going to New York for that deal that you were going to sort out.
Yeah, totally. So I think everything happens for a reason, undoubtedly. It's just often we don't realise what the reason is until we've got a bit of hindsight. Yeah. So thank you, David. Because, of course, we would have gone on to air on the 27th of April and everyone's thinking, well, that's
right. We wouldn't have mentioned anything.
They didn't even mention coronavirus. So, guys, here we are. Yeah. So awesome. And yeah, thank you for your patience, David, really.
No, thank you for you, because when like I said, when I did actually, I had to come to you cap in hand and say, I'm sorry, Jill, but it didn't record. Can we do it again? And of course, we had to try and then come up with a date where you were free and everything. And as it happens, we're all in prison at the moment. There you go. But
hang on a minute, I just need to adjust the ball and chain. Yep. Okay.
But like you say, it would have been a different situation. The show would have been going out and no mention of anything, and like everything was, you were in New York and everything, and it wouldn't have been, would it? So
no, I know. Just think about it. So actually, it was always meant to be this way. So that's
Now, was that the reason the show never recorded? Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
I believe it was something to do with whatever I'm doing with the electrical waves as well. But I think, yes, that wasn't quite right. And, my spirit guides, thank you guys, just gave me a different opportunity to say different things, different message. Fabulous. Thank you.
I know you're very much into your spirit guides, and you said earlier you do believe in reincarnation. I do too.
Yeah.
Do you know much about your previous lives, or?
Yep, I do. And this will sound quite bizarre actually, but I am intergalactic. I did a course, so I'm highly trained in the Akashic Records and in soul realignment. It's an amazing process. And I can only describe it. Again, that was an electrical experience. When you experience trauma, bits of your soul actually fragment and get detached, and you need to call all the pieces back and repair your golden web, which the process of soul realignment does this. I experienced like the most amazing electrical charge I can ever experience. This was about 2-3 years ago, and my development went on from there, but I then subsequently had a past life regression on board a cruise ship, actually. I went on the cruise ship with a group that was organized by a group called the Psychic Sisters, who are based in one of the Selfridges, big stores in London. And it was an incredible experience. I'd already determined from my own readings of the Akashic Records that my soul group is Sirius, which is the brightest star. So I actually tracked back off this planet to intergalactic realms, as in fact do many of us. It's just that we've all forgotten. So I traced back to Sirius. And I did quite a lot more training and work in the Akashic Records. But actually, while I was on the boat, I had like this whole download of information. which was just incredible. And I noticed all the things and I wrote them all down. And I'm kind of on this cruise ship, which we docked Fort Lauderdale. So we got off and I'm like, okay, you know, wow, you know, I think that on a previous life I've been in ET. Are you serious? I think that my mother is a blue person in that lifetime. Right, okay, come on guys, let's get real. You need to give me some signs here. I want 3 signs. And 3 of the things that I'd written down on the download actually, presented themselves as I got off the cruise ship. I'm like, okay, right. One of the things was the first thing we were on the tour bus going, we had a few hours to kill before we got back on the airport, to the airport to get the flight home. So I went past the airline, Spirit Airline. I'm like, okay. Then they dropped us off at a shopping centre called the Blue Dolphin. That's on my list. Okay. And the third thing was I didn't go shopping. I'm not massively into shopping, but I trogged off down to the beach, South Miami, and it's called Ocean Drive. I'm like, okay, right, yep, I accept it. So that has just been the most incredible experience of discovering, you know, that you're a starseed, basically. And when you read my book, some of the introductory to that is about starseeds. And curiously, but not really, because if you believe that we reincarnate and we choose our parents, then we also choose our ancestors. And one of my relatives is Sir Frederick Hoyle. He was a cosmologist, as famous as Stephen Hawking's. And, you know, he was amazing, but one of his theories that was deeply, deeply contentious at the time. They kind of said he's crazy, in fact, because they thought he was crazy. But everybody that has ideas before their time, it's not that they're crazy, it's just they're ahead of the game. But they didn't give him the Nobel Prize for many of his scientific discoveries. His team got the Nobel Prize, he didn't, because he believed that we are seeded from the stars. Right? And that is a theory called panspermia. So that's curious, not. Anyway, sorry. So, yeah, I have tracked back quite a number of my past lives, not in any detail, but just that knowing of the things, some of the things that we've forgotten.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to mention that because your book is actually based on true beliefs and experiences of your own, isn't it, as well?
Yes, absolutely. In terms of my horse, that I believed in reincarnation. It was just one of those profound things. Obviously, it's not an easy thing to prove, but I'd got a horse, and my dad had come down, and he was very much into photography, so he'd set up his tripod, bless him, and all the rest of it, and he's like, right, love, can you just turn around and cant it towards me? And this horse was just crazy, and it was really bad. It was reversing into a barbed wire fence. So I did the unthinkable thing for an experienced horse rider, which I am. I used to compete show jumping. I jumped off. And I let go of the horse. And my dad was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's red. He came back. So my dad went, okay, love, okay. And that was then a journey to try and discover what was wrong with this horse. And eventually we found out, and he was put down, and it was really, he came back, my first horse, Red, so I could get the ending right this time. So life's just a lesson, isn't it? It's basically about us learning the lessons, and if we don't learn them, then we get to repeat them, or we go down a grade until we graduate.
So it was a bad experience originally then?
I honestly, I don't really view anything as a bad experience, because my belief system is that it's a lesson. So whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's about us it's working out our karma and learning and improving. So everything, I mean, sometimes, you know, I'm not pretending, oh yeah, this is terrible and I'm thinking it's amazing. No, that'd be a bit, you know, but generally speaking, I'm very positive, very upbeat, and it's like, okay, right, now let's process what is the learning experience here. Yeah, but so I just had this complete conviction that reincarnation was totally genuine when my horse came back. And that does bring us on to the question of, do animals reincarnate?
Yeah,
yes.
That's going to be my next question.
Oh, sorry, darling.
That's all right.
Yeah, absolutely, 1000%. I mean, I've actually shot a whole day's video, and I went over to film my daughter's first pony. He's called Jester, who is actually the reincarnation of my first pony, not my first horse, who was called Chocolate. I got an animal communicator to come in, and it was just a whole incredible how the pieces fell into place, because we'd lost track of this pony. My daughters had outgrown him. He'd gone out on loan. I honestly thought he had, gone over the Rainbow Bridge, but no. The lady that has him found me because of my book, got in touch, and we reconnected with my daughter's first pony. And I shot a whole series, which I need to get edited and out onto YouTube. But that is the story about animal reincarnation and people that communicate to animals, which, it's a lovely, lovely story. But apparently he told the animal communicator that the new little girl that's got him, Ella and I were all on Sirius together. So there you go.
Oh, that's quite sweet, actually.
It is very sweet. And I wasn't going to go down this track. I was really busy trying to crack on with my next book, which is called The Origin Codes. I'm kind of updating it because it's like a moving process. But so I wasn't going to do this whole animal communication thing, but then I had a lady in Hawaii who did an angel reading for me. And I said, well, can you tell me, I don't understand, why has the pony Jester, why has my pony Chocolate reincarnated as my daughter's pony, Jester? What is the lesson? And she said, okay, Angel Gabriel wants to tell you that he is a being that was silenced many times in his previous lives. I was just like, oh God bless him. And he wants to communicate. He's an interspecies communicator, and he wants to be heard. And that was just such a lovely message. I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go and let him talk, basically. So off I went. I've just now got to get someone to edit the video and put it up onto a YouTube channel, but hey.
Oh, you'll have to send me the link when you do that.
Oh, yeah, it's just a lovely, lovely story. It's a beautiful story also because the little girl that has got him has, I don't know, maybe she's slightly on the Asperger's spectrum, so socializing and communication is not her forte, but her confidence has just blossomed since she connected with Jester. And so that in itself is a lovely, lovely story. And the lady that rescued him, he was on the verge of death. She stepped in and her husband was like, why are you rescuing this bleep, bleep, bleep pony? It's just more expensive. You can't do anything with it. It's, going to cost money. And she's like, I don't know. But his spirit is so big and he's so brave. I can't give up on him. So the lady that owns the livery yard, Tina, rescued him. The little girl got him on loan. She keeps him there. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful story. And he just wants to communicate. And some of the things that he told the animal communicator are really awesome. So I will put it out there, and it's going to be, what am I going to call it? I have to be careful because I believe in numerology. So that I call things is quite important to me. I think that's it. The pony who escaped the story. Yeah.
Wow. So I always wonder, about animals. Do they progress to a higher life form? Like, can they progress into like human?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I haven't 100% bottomed it out, but
That's not to say a horse is a lower life form, but
no.
you know what I'm saying. Like,
I mean, if you look at dogs and their ability to give unconditional love, they're actually a higher life form than we are, in my view, right? Because if you think that our spiritual journey really is to love and be compassionate and be joyous and be kind, we've lost the plot down here, literally. A lot, you know, but I'm not entirely sure. That is a big question, but I would just like to say this, that on Sirius, remember, up there, which is the bright star, there are actually three: Sirius A, Sirius B, Sirius C. B, in my past life regression, is a lot of it is underwater. It was kind of like Atlantis, where the structures are built of coral, but equally it's land-based. And when the animal communicator spoke to Jester, she said, oh, this is really strange. He's like an amphibious being, but he can breathe perfectly underwater, but he can get out when he breathes on land. And what the Syrian Council of Light say is they tell us that whales and dolphins are a much higher evolved species than we are. They are right up there. They come even from a higher dimension than Sirius, which, as I understand it, is on the 6th dimension. Earth is on the 3rd. So dolphins and whales have agreed to come down to Earth. And it is down, literally, not up, because, you know, we're 3rd dimension physical form, and they are the guardians of the ocean, but they are highly, highly, highly evolved beings, and look at what we're doing to them.
Yeah, when you mentioned, I was wondering if there's any connections to Atlantis when you mentioned that. Well, maybe that's where the legends of Atlantis came from.
Well, the theory is that we are not the first race on Earth. Again, I'm just trying to put this into place.
I definitely think that. I think that's right anyway, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. That's great that you are on that one. So I think there are at least 3 kind of physical forms on Earth. So Lemuria, Atlantis, and of course Atlantis, they were so highly evolved in the magical powers that they got too beyond themselves and basically destroyed their civilization. But I'm just trying to weave in, it's quite a complex book, the book I'm writing at the moment. Because it basically is based on an ET that comes down to Earth and enters politics. So it's very current, but I'm also looking at what is happening. Now, I never used to be a conspiracy theorist, but now I am. I believe that a lot of the conspiracy theories are in fact more truthful than some of the stuff that the mainstream media is churning out.
Well, the more you look at some of them, the more they seem to be believable, don't they? You know.
Well, yeah. But I'm trying to do, you know, research, because I'm a Libra, so I always look at both sides of every situation and then evaluate and ultimately pass it through my gut instinct. What is my gut instinct on this? I'll analyze analytically with my head and then run it through my gut and say, that feels right.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to carry on.
No, sorry, yeah.
You talk about, what about astral travelling? Have you got any experience of that, of your own?
No, not at all.
Or have you looked into it? Or
I sleep more soundly. I can sleep through earthquakes, literally, and I have slept through earthquakes.
I think you're a bit like me, but I do understand that we all do astral travel, but often you don't actually remember it anyway.
No, so I really couldn't comment on that. But although whilst I was in politics, I did have some prophetic dreams. Now that's not normally how my psychic abilities come through. Mine's much more like just to get a download of information, or I just get an overwhelming gut instinct, a sense of, okay, for instance, when my first horse, Red, who reincarnated, was dying, I was at university at the time. If I say I hitchhiked, you know that I'm not in my 20s. I hitched from Norwich back up home, and it was just a conviction. Okay, you have to go home. I didn't know why. I just arrived home, and Red was seriously ill, and he had to be put down. But it was the way in which he met his end that was not good, which is why he came back. So I could get it right the next time. So I think we've all got different powers and different senses and different attributes. And I think increasingly more of us are discovering them.
Yeah.
I think, if you believe as I do that the Earth is ascending, that we're moving from the third dimension through the fourth. We don't want to hang around in the fourth because that's kind of an in-between. No time zone is what I call it. And we're ascending to the fifth, physically the Earth, and all of us on it, or most of us on it. I don't know, depends which way you look at it. Then the whole, what's the word? I don't know. The whole vibration is changing, and the veils of the fog in front of us is thinning.
Yeah.
So
well, I agree. I think a lot of us are waking up to things that have been forgotten in the past. I mean, we've been programmed to forget everything, haven't we? I mean you and me. I'm talking about everybody.
Oh, absolutely, everybody. We've all been
You've been brainwashed, basically, by...
Completely, totally. I would go further than that. I think that... as I say, I didn't used to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm now vegan. I'm teetotal. I don't smoke. I think being vegan somehow also clears your whole thought process, because you're no longer buying into the hype of it. I can't explain how or why, but somehow it clears your brain somehow. And of course, if you believe that all beings on the planet are sentient and animals are not lower, then it leads you to certain conclusions. But that's individual choice.
Well, I presume it cleans out all the food toxins and things that are in our foods that will probably keep us under control. With your McDonald's, and I love a McDonald's, but don't get me wrong, but I'm pretty sure that you're right. A lot of those things, like sugar, for instance, is supposed to be a big controller, isn't it? Mind controller, and they put so much sugar in everything, and for what reason I don't know. I'm not one of these people. This is my motto: he without sin casts the first stone. And I've yet to meet anyone that is without sin, but what I do see is a lot of stones getting thrown. Yeah. we talk about I know we spoke before about the Cabal and the Illuminati, who are really the controllers of what goes on. I know you've got quite a interest in all of that. Well, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I do, because that's really increasingly going to be the theme and the strands of my my current book, and it's based on my experience. It's just things have just led me along this path where it's just like, and actually where my path has led me, and it's pretty hard, but I'm looking at satanic ritual abuse. And that's something nobody wants to look at. Nobody believes it, but it's real. Yeah. It's absolutely real.
It's so scary, and it's such a touchy subject as well. And it involves a lot of really big names, doesn't it, to my understanding?
Yes. Yeah. But I didn't come into it in that way. It was just, as I say, you get signposts. So several years ago, I contacted a lady on the internet to do with a psychiatrist that was treating members of my, not immediate family, but I just had concerns about this person and some of the things I was hearing. And so I did some investigation. It turned out, although he was private psychiatrist, he'd been banned by the GMC, which is our Greater Medical Council, but yet he can still practice privately. And he had tried to basically, he had been paid in a divorce process. And this, to say that the woman, the mother, was like borderline, she'd never been his patient. The patient was her husband. And it turned out that this guy was a paedophile and he'd been banned, but yet he's practicing privately. So I connected with this lady called Kathy Fox. Kathy runs a blog series called Sexual Abuse of Children. And that's kind of how, and then she didn't post anything. I just connected with her because she put something out there about this dirty doctor. And this was years ago. She didn't post anything. Then suddenly she started up her blog, and she interviews a lot of escaped victims. So a lot of it's incredible how the strands all kind of intertwine. And then I've got a lovely, lovely friend over. She's German. She's in Spain. And we met up and we were exactly at the same page, came to the same conclusions. She's the therapist. She rescued someone, or, was giving therapy to someone who had been mind controlled by the cult, the cabal, basically. And so she'd gone off and done her own research and seen the effect, the horrific effect that I think it's called MK Ultra mind control programming had, and she was just blown away with it. But yet we both arrived at the same place on the same page at the same time. So there is something big going on out there in the world, and let's hope they remove rescue the victims and remove the perpetrators, please God.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I've heard several big names. I'm not going to mention any names on here, obviously, but in the past, both living and passed away. But there was one particular pop star actually I heard about many years ago, many years ago, before he was actually mentioned by the police, and he walked away. But there you go. So he got away with it. So
no, that's what we've got to stop, because the thing is, if justice is not seen to be done, then it undermines the whole fabric and structure of society. And a society must protect, first and foremost, it's weak, it's vulnerable, it's weak and vulnerable. So if we are not protecting our children, we're not protecting our old, then what kind of a society are we? That's my point.
Yeah.
No, of course, as I say to my other half, he's like, what you're reading now? I'm like, well, and he's like, all right. I'm like, yeah, I read about satanic ritual abuse, and then I get a bit of coronavirus in the middle. But, yeah.
I mean, we've all heard the stories about Jimmy Savile and even Edward Heath now. That's been mentioned and brought up.
The stories about Edward Heath are that, Savile was procuring boys for him, and they got on his yacht, and often they did not get off. Yeah. It's vile.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? When someone said it, you say, oh no. I mean, I can remember when I first heard about Jimmy Savile, when I was at work, I actually mentioned to a couple and they said, Jimmy Savile, no, he does so much for charity. I can't believe that, no.
That's the cover though, isn't it? That's the front. This is the problem. They've all got fronts, but the issue that I really have is, your soul, if you turn a blind eye, if you know and you do nothing, your soul is stained, okay? Yeah. Remember, we have to speak up, because, I didn't get to read it all. I need to go back and read it. There was a report, Theresa May called a report into, sexual abuse and cover-ups. The cover-ups! Come on, this is what we need to lift the lid off the people. Yeah. And basically, this is what the police said. And think about this. This is what they called the boys, mainly. They called them street rats. Street rats? These are human beings. And they are raping their souls. And they said, the street rats were picked up on the meat rack. Just think about the terms that we use to describe those.
Yeah. I mean, I know it seems like we're going off the paranormal trail here, but I've actually heard about the connections with the reptilians, that they actually control the people from behind,
yes,
because it's a very different vibration plane, and these people that are actually controlled by the reptilians.
Yep. As I say, I was not primarily a conspiracy theorist, and actually it was whilst I was campaigning, funnily enough, because I'd said to my spirit guides, right, you want me to do this, so you need to send me some people who are on the same wavelength that will support me. And sure enough, virtually everyone I came across, which is probably how you and I connected, magnetically, is because they were like, Jill, right?
I think I was obviously led to you somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm sure you were, because they said, Jill, you need to read David Icke. And I'm like, look, right. Okay. If you haven't noticed, I'm massively busy trying to orchestrate a campaign. I haven't got time for any of that, whatever it is. Thank you, but no thank you. Eventually, when I did watch a couple of videos, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, he's right. That's exactly what I think. Of course. Exactly the same. And almost the way in which he had the downloads in the hotel room. I'm like, okay, that's what happened to me. It was the connection with well, in my case, Syrians, basically, off planet. So yes, I do believe in the draconians or the dracos, the reptilians. I believe it. So yes, I would say that is correct, but just I would like to point out that the majority of the ETs are benevolent and they are trying to help us. But as with anything, there are good and bad, and we've got to get to the point where we can recognize the good from the bad. Yeah. But and it's also, it's kind of, there's a biblical thread. It does go back to negative and positive, and the two do exist. It's just, I think, at the moment that we've got out of balance and there's more of the negative, darker energy than the light. But people like yourself who are putting out an amazing program are helping to, rebalance and bring things back into check so that the light is stronger.
Well, there's a few of us who are trying to do our little bit. I mean, I try to do my little bit, which is very little, but I mean, no,
it's awesome. It's great. You're out there on the airwaves. That's amazing.
But I think when you talk about people like David Icke, when you talk about the reptilians, a lot of people they think, oh, what a load of rubbish, they turn off. But if you actually look into what he's actually saying, and it's not actually him either, he's actually supporting other people's research. And when you start reading his books, I've read a couple, and it's not actually his research at all. It's actually research that he's put together from other people's research, and he agrees with it, and then he advances onto it. He goes further with it. So anyone out there who's heard of David Icke and they immediately they think of reptilians and everything, look a bit deeper into it, because a lot of that is very misleading when they take I use the word take the mickey out of him, because he's a very clever man. I'm not saying I agree with absolutely everything he says, because I mean nobody's perfect, and I think he probably gets things wrong like everybody else does, but I mean, you probably agree with Matt on that, Jill, don't you? I would have thought.
Yeah, I do. And as I say, I went on my own journey, and I'm very much this, I would say to everything, I'm very anti-cult, anti-control, anti-orthodox religion. I'm very pro the individual sovereignty of the soul. But we all must do our own research, never be led, make your own mind up, but do your research, because don't just swallow whatever it is that's been pumped out. Research, check, find out, okay, who is this person? Who are they really? Who are they connected to? Who are their friends? What are their belief systems? Research it. And that's what I do. And I've come to the conclusion that David Icke, a lot of what he says, right. Now, with the reptilians, obviously I don't know, I haven't seen one, but if you've just heard that I say I've had a past life on another galaxy, therefore it's totally conceivable that, you know, there are not so great ones out there. And two things I'd just like to quickly point out that reinforce this. As I say, if you type in Jill Hughes Brexit party into Google, you'll find out, you know, oh, crazy woman, all the rest of it, you know. I'm not crazy, I'm highly educated.
So you're being labelled like David Icke is, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It was horrendous. The press absolutely annihilated me. But, you know, I was an ex-investment banker. I worked on Wall Street. Anyway, but if you think I'm crazy, well, you know, go for it. But yes, I got absolutely demonized in the press. So on the 12th of December, which was the day of the election, I went to Stonehenge with my partner, and we took roses. So at 12 noon on the 12th of December, which was the election day, I went to Stonehenge and we put yellow roses on the monument. But the hotel that we'd stayed in, we arrived there late. It was called the Solace, and it was nearby. I hadn't even really seen this, but I just saw butterflies on the wallpaper. But the next morning when I looked at it, I was like, oh my goodness, because in this wallpaper was basically like a serpent dragon on the wallpaper. So I'm like, that's the sign, and that was basically the reptilians. That's how I took it. Don't exactly know what it meant, but sure enough, there was the sign. Let me see, 2 months ago, I got called up and I was doing radio interviews with the BBC. I went down to Bristol to do a radio interview. And again, on the side of the wall, painted on the side of a pub wall, really weird, there's this massive serpent thing. I'm like, oh, here we go again. So we popped in. It was absolutely pouring down with rain. I'd taken my daughter down with me, and we took refuge in a crystal shop, like you do. I bought some crystals, and this was another one of those electrical things. We got back to the hotel, absolutely soaking wet, dried off. I put the crystal, which was citrine, I think, on top of a box. It was like one of those projector TVs, incredible things, too complicated for me to work, but my daughter tried it. She switched it on. I put the crystal on top of it. It blew up.
Oh, well.
And then smoke and flames shot out of the back of it. So I don't know. I tell you what, I'm stirring up the airwaves, the energy waves, and and then I've got David Icke keeps sending me reptiles, oh gosh, wherever I go. So if I believe in the synchronicity, I believe that, that's kind of a representation of dark forces that are controlling all our systems, basically.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing about it. Anyone out there, ask questions, look deeper, don't just accept what you're being told, because there's a lot more out there than you are being told. That's all I can say about it, you know. And it will lead to more and more questions, usually.
Yeah, absolutely. It will lead to more questions. Well, I don't know if anyone has actually come across on social media the whole QAnon phenomenon, which is really quite interesting, because in my novel, The Origin Codes, my hero, or my heroine, I don't know what's going to happen to her, bless her, is called QED. So that's curious.
That is curious,
So, and actually, I published that novel, but I haven't promoted it because it's not finished. I'm working on it, but I published it. I told Grant, he's my amazing virtual assistant based in the Philippines. I'm like, put it out there I want it out there, Grant, on the 12th day, 12 noon, 12th of December. So it's in abridged form. It's published then. So you can see that what I'm telling you is the truth. I haven't just made this up after the event. So yeah, interesting. And I lost thread what I was saying.
I mean, I will say that your book, Spirit of Prophecy, has recently been made available in audio form as well now, isn't it?
Yeah, it has. It's in all three versions. It's hardcover, the audio version is read by a professional actor and studio recorder called Matt Addison, and Matt is just amazing. Think of the challenge that he had to step up to. The two leading characters are females. One's American. There's Welsh people. There's Scottish people.
Oh, he has to fill the voices as well, does he?
Yeah. But you know what? He's absolutely awesome. And the audiobook has won prizes. It's sensational. So if you're a bit of an audio buff, that is really a great recording.
That's something to look out for. So it's available in book form, in Kindle form, and also in audio form. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's right. It's on ACX audio. So that's a great one. It depends on, me personally, I'm anti-AI, right? And you would never have an Alexa or an Echo or anything like that in my house. I believe the ultimate destiny that they're trying to New World Order impose upon us is turn us into cyborgs.
Ah, right.
So not having any of the devices switching me on and switching me off.
You'll probably find a lot of people listen to this show on those. So. So I don't quite know what to say about that.
Great, guys. Well done. So I'm very much paper. I like a paper book, although I did succumb to Kindle because it's just less weight in your suitcase, and to be honest. But, yep, it's that.
And obviously, if you're on the move, an audio version is good because you can listen to it while you drive or something, can't you?
Yeah, that's right. So it's a great mystery novel. I mean, one of my readers said this is worthy of a cult following like Stephen King. The thing about me is I don't like to be pigeonholed, so I could go on and write the sequel and carry on with the same characters. I hope to do that, but I write what I feel I need to express at the time. So the Origin Codes is not fiction; it's kind of fiction blended with fact. Yes. It's Grant, who is my assistant, is also an author, and he's like, where the heck are we supposed to put this? What category? I'm like, don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit of an in-betweener, isn't it?
Yeah. I said, stick it in with David Icke, bless him.
Because I mean, to be honest, I think if this is like a pure fiction, this is the reason why I invited you onto the show, because I know it's not all just based on fiction. It's just not all made up, because it's based on your beliefs and understandings and experiences. So
yes, it is. There's kind of a spiritual subtext to it. A lot of the themes are trying to, well, I don't know. It's not a spiritual book in the way that the Celestine Prophecy is, but it's got, because I just felt that maybe a better way of because some of the things that I've just said on the show, gosh Moses, are quite out there, and I just felt that maybe fiction was a better way to put some different concepts in there, and people wouldn't kind of close down to the same extent that they would do if you trot it out and put it like in that way. But so it's kind of visionary and metaphysical crime. So it makes you think and look at something. But as I was writing it, as I say, suddenly I had to write about ETs. I'm like, where the heck, what? I'm not even remotely, and I mean remotely, a UFOologist. I wasn't that person. But subsequently, since I had the past life regression to Sirius, now of course I am. Yeah. But at the time I wasn't. And they just kind of dropped into my novel. I'm like, how am I supposed to fit this in here, and where have this lot come from?
Well, I think it's important because anyone who will pick your book up and read it as a thriller, may well get some further interests in other subjects that might make them question other things and look further into, like reincarnation or, all sorts of other subjects that you bring up.
Yeah, I really, really hope so. I mean, my big thing is just keep an open mind, How is it? How are they? I really don't like, and unfortunately, in my campaigning as a politician, I really came across, I got really, really, absolutely, I got hate mail, I can't even tell you. I had to go into the police myself.
Really?
It was so, because they were taking me on, right? Because I was a woman and I was selected and they weren't. So I can't even tell you how horrific some of the stuff on my Facebook account was. And one of my platforms was, I'd made an appointment with the district commissioner of, hate crimes. Yeah, I mean, you can take hate crimes two ways. Anything where you get a bit OTT about everything's a hate crime, I don't agree with. But my thing was, disabled people, abuse and hate crimes against disabled people was rocketing. So I had a whole platform to stop hate crime against disabled people, to employ disabled people.
Disgusting, isn't it? I know.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting. But I then end up myself in the police station having to report hate crimes because of the attacks that I was being subjected to. And I'm not saying, I'm nothing like, but to be abusive to disabled people, come on, again, it goes to back to the same.
Yeah, I agree with you. Did you get any death threats, anything like that, or was it didn't go that far?
No, it was emotional abuse.
No, I just thought about the Jo Cox and also the Jill Dando when she when she was murdered on her doorstep. I believe that she was actually going to expose something going on at the BBC.
Me too. Okay, yeah, me too, 100%. I've also got a big theory about Jo Cox as well, but that's probably another book. Again, a lot of my supporters like, Jill, you've got to look into this. It's not what it seems. What happened to Jo Cox? It was too neat. And you know what? They love to blame. It's so easy. I mean, hey, the group called Hope Not Hate, which were a pro-Labour organisation, went after me. Hopefully, not hatefully, of course, because I stood for the Brexit Party. Therefore, by definition, I must be a fascist. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Excuse me. I am the most equality-minded person you could ever wish to meet, right? But they went for me and they labelled me and what just...
Yeah, people like to put labels on things, don't they? I think that's the problem. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I believe increasingly, yes, Jill Dando was about to reveal something, so she was taken out. And taken out by whom exactly? And
well, somebody out there, somebody knows something, don't they? I mean, it's because this was all before the Jimmy Savile affair. Well, not before it, but before it was exposed.
Absolutely. I think with Jo Cox, she was very, very, very well connected in the Labour Party. She worked previously for the Kinnocks and also for the Browns. Okay? So she was highly, highly connected to the top of the Labour Party. And I think it has something to do with who knew something about the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. But anyway, watch this space on that.
That's another can of worms, but...
Indeed.
It's very interesting, Jill. I must say, that's the problem with all these subjects. That one thing leads into another, doesn't it? And I believe there's a lot of connections with a lot of it as well.
Well, I think if they take out the Illuminati, the Cabal, the Deep State, I mean, I just want to point out, because one of the ways of closing down conversation, this is what happened in the whole Brexit Party thing, was people that voted leave were branded as racist. Yes. They branded us as racist. This is not true. It's just an excuse to shut us up. They told us that we were stupid, that we were idiots. Well, You know,
Well, it's
I've
the
got
same sort of thing as they do with Donald Trump, isn't it? Right now, they call everything is him. He's a racist and everything. I mean, all right. He's made when he was younger, he made some stupid comments and things. I mean, haven't we all? You know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But that's just a way of closing down discussion, and that's basically an invasion of free speech. So because they're discrediting the Brexit Party. Well, the Brexit Party actually took candidates from every walk of life.
I know.
Literally.
Yeah, I know.
You know, from train drivers to taxi drivers, from doctors, you name it. One of my very, very good friends, she was an ex-RAF pilot. We came from every walk of life. So how we are suddenly labelled racist fascists was completely
I know, it's crazy.
untrue, right? But that's how they do. That's how it's. So I really don't like bigotry, and I don't like hypocrisy.
Well, usually the ones that are called you that name are that themselves. That's what I usually find.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think, yeah, what's going on with Donald Trump is much the same. Of course, he's not perfect. I think David Wilcox described him as dad. Look at Donald Trump as the dad figure. You might not like him and you might be cursing, like an adolescent and like, no. But he's the dad figure, whether you like him, love him, hate him, whatever.
Well, I know he's done an awful lot for charities in the past. He's given millions away, hasn't he? So it's...
Yeah. And, there is a theory going around. The QAnon theory is that Donald Trump is going to take out the cabal.
Yeah,
please let that happen. But, that might be just a conspiracy theory within a conspiracy fact.
Well,
who knows?
I think the thing is, look what happened to Kennedy. Let's just hope it doesn't happen to Donald Trump, because that's that's kind of a way they put a stop to things like that, isn't it?
Yes, they do. And I mean, the rumours are, how is it possible that Epstein, and remember, we only scratched the surface, literally just the surface of what really was going on there.
And is he still alive or is he dead? That's another question.
No, exactly. How did he possibly suicide out under the FBI watch then? How does that happen?
Yeah.
So increasingly, I think, more questions are presenting themselves to be answered, and I think the good thing is we're not just towing the line and buying whatever the official spun version is.
Yeah.
So that's good. I think that's great.
Well, of course, this virus has taken a lot of that out of the news, hasn't it? All we're hearing about is the virus all the time.
But I think actually, though, there's a lot of people are not watching the news because basically it's just so depressing anyway, isn't it? And it's one-dimensional and it's depressing. So I think a lot of people are actually tuning into social media.
That's a point, yeah. I'm just wondering what, in the future years, what everyone will make of all this, in a couple of years' time, when we look back and look at this virus thing and think, well, it was just unbelievable that everyone, it was just basically being ordered to stay at home.
Well, it's very Stalinist, isn't it? It is an invasion of our freedom. But the big thing that really worries me, ex-investment banker of 23 years, is abolishing cash. That's been on the cards because remember, guys, if they remove our cash, then they have complete control of us, total control. They can switch your cash on and they can switch your cash off whenever they like.
That's a scary thing, isn't it? You've got so many thousands tucked away and all of a sudden it's just gone just like that.
Absolutely. That's what they did in Cyprus. And just to mention, they keep this quiet, but of course they've passed laws in 2014. It's called bail-in. Last time in the crash in 2008, they bailed out. That meant the taxpayer ultimately, via the government, paid to bail out, the big banks that caused the problem in the first place. By the way, I left in 2003, so I didn't bring the 2008 crash on you directly. But now they've got bail-in, and that's what they did in Cyprus. So what that means is if you've got cash sitting in your savings account, don't think that your insurance policy is going to cover you either. It won't. They're going to take your money. They may give you shares in the defunct bank, but basically your cash is at risk at the moment.
Right, you've just scared the life out of everybody, Jill. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I know, bless him. Right, but no, I don't look. No, I'm sorry, darling, but I don't look at things like that, because if you have knowledge, remember, ultimately, knowledge is power, right? So with the power, with the knowledge, I'm sorry if it's scary, but if you know, then you're aware, it's a bit like, okay, I've had cancer, right? What was the worst thing? Worrying that I might have it. Once I got the diagnosis, then you know where you are. You can come to terms with it. You can make plans and, touch wood, thank God, recover or whatever. But, sorry. I don't think trying to brush things under the carpet is helpful. No. Remember, knowledge is power.
That's true. That is absolutely true. Well, I guess you've got a website, haven't you? I think you've got a couple of websites, haven't you?
No, I've just got one, and it's kind of a hybrid website. I started off...
That's probably what I meant. You've got one leads into another.
Yeah. I'm a trained life coach, and obviously my background is in investment banking, but I kind of take a spiritual approach. I'm not a financial advisor, by the way, but I take a spiritual approach to everything, including money and how it's just energy and it circulates. So my books are included on my website, which is called, you can find it www.moneymagnet.global. And there's a lot of information on there about intuition, developing your intuition. That's called Inner Voice. There's a whole section on listening, because that listening is the biggest gift you can give anyone. And you're giving your readers, your listeners, that because they get to listen without,
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think the thing is, if you saw that website, you'd think, oh, it's just a money magnet thing. And I think it's a bit misleading, isn't it? Because it does actually, there's a whole lot more in it. Because I've looked at it, and this is why I said it was like a couple of websites. It's like it's like a website within a website type of thing.
Yeah, I think the reason for that was I spent a huge amount of effort putting up. I was persuaded, by someone that I hired. I paid a lot of money to get my business up and running, and she said, no, don't get into that spiritual stuff. It doesn't make money. What you need to talk about, what you're qualified, really, really qualified to talk about is money. But actually, truthfully, that wasn't what my passion was, or what I like is really helping people with their purpose and spirituality. So I got persuaded to create a website about money, but that's actually not my passion. It never has been. I'm not particularly motivated by money. No. So within the website, I just couldn't face changing it and developing another website. Yeah. So
now, I just want to explain people out there, because it could be a bit off-putting, but it's actually really worth having a look into. And I will put the link on the Paranormal Dimensions page on Facebook.
Okay,
and all that, and sort of put it out. And of course, when people listen to this, they can go and have a look at anyway, if they don't go to my page.
Yeah. No, that's great. And also there is an awesome blog series which is very spiritual. There's a great one, an interesting one on crop circles, for instance, all kinds of things. That's called, you can sign up for it. It's called Awakening Alchemy.
Yeah, I've seen that link on there. I think it's on the page, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is. So yeah, thank you, David, for explaining that. Yeah, it is a bit confusing.
Yeah. This is why I kind of describe it as a website within a website. It's kind of.
It's just, to be honest, I put so much effort into developing.
You do. I can see. It's actually very interesting, to be honest, Jill.
It's a very beautiful website, but I'm not. IT again is not my passion. I just can't start again with it all. So it's a hybrid. It's, it's somewhat like all of us. It's a work in progress.
That's all these things, like if you're interested in like animal reincarnation, for instance, there's a little bit on that as well. There's all sorts of things, isn't there?
There is, indeed. And, as I say, books, new one coming up. I don't know when. Watch this space.
Yes, you have to send me a link, and perhaps you might like to come back on the show again sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to come back and talk to you about the origin codes. If I survive, the Cabal might have taken me out.
But there's that. They might have taken me out as well. You never know.
Sorry, darling.
I'm sure I hope we'll stay in touch anyway, Jill. And
oh, we will, absolutely, 1,000%. So thank you.
I think we're linked on LinkedIn and Google. What's the name as well now, aren't we?
Yeah, but unfortunately, I don't do any social media.
Somebody else does it for you, then.
Yeah, that's right. I've got my daughter working on it, and she keeps saying, "Can I talk to you about this social?" No.
Well, you know how to get hold of me anyway. You've got my phone number and stuff. Anyway.
I do. I've got your direct line.
Well, hopefully I'll be able to see you sometime, and you can actually sign the book for me.
Oh, absolutely. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I am. I'm up to about chapter 4 at the moment. I'll just explain out there. Okay. I did actually get a hold of a copy to start reading it because I wanted to, and I'm finding it very interesting. There's quite a horrendous part in there about horse riding and razor wire and all that. It's really turned made me shudder. But it is actually very, very, very well written, and I'm enjoying it, yeah. And I would advise anyone out there to try and get a copy.
I'm sorry about that, but I guess I'm very much, chapter 4 is the one. It gets a lot easier after that. Grin and bear that, gritty teeth, because it's quite graphic. But I am very much a spiritual warrior. I don't do massive happy, clappy. Be positive, That's sticking plaster. Be realistic, right? Light exists in conjunction with dark, and if you ignore dark and only look at light, then you're not looking at the complete picture.
Totally, yeah.
So,
and it will make you ask more questions, I think, and want to look more into different things. But
totally, and it has a happy ending. So
that's the important thing, I think, isn't it? We all live happily ever after.
Yeah, definitely. Well, light, 100%. In the final analysis will win. Love, compassion and joy. So I send that to all your listeners and of course to you, and God bless.
Thank you so much, Jill. It's been fantastic having you on the show. Thank you for agreeing to come on, and thank you for agreeing to do it again.
Awesome.
After the last problem, but it's been fantastic having you on, and anyway, out there, thank you for listening, everyone, on the Paranormal Dimensions show, and listening on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. You've just been listening to Jill, and I'm sure she'd like to say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye, God bless, and go with infinite ease and grace.
Thank you so much, Jill, and thanks everybody out there for listening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Paranormal Dimensions is as bright and powerful as our celestial star, the sun. And although it's expending thousands of pounds of energy every minute of the day, have no fear. There is plenty left.
If anyone listening to this is still planning on going out and doing paranormal investigations, or in fact anything else that they shouldn't be doing, please stay at home, and please stay safe, and please keep everyone else safe. Thank you. Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.